Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. After Ethan's first love got into a car accident, he insisted on bringing her home to take care of her. I didn't make a fuss and agreed without hesitation. He looked incredibly moved. There was nothing going on between us. I just wanted to make sure she lived the rest of her life in comfort, with someone by her side to care for her. Don't overthink it, I told him. But the truth is I didn't even dare to think. I just wanted to get out of this situation as soon as possible because in 7 days I would collapse from exhaustion and die, buried without even knowing what really killed me. On that same day, Ethan and his first love would get their marriage certificate. I was dying, and that knowledge completely consumed my rational mind the moment I was reborn. So when Ethan lost his temper again and said he wanted to bring Sophie back to live with us, I no longer fought it. I just agreed. Fine, go get her. When it comes to life and death, everything else is trivial. I'm 55 years old. What else is there that I can't let go of? All I want now is to cling to life, to survive. Ethan looked stunned, his expression full of disbelief. After a moment, he looked uncomfortable and awkwardly muttered that Sophie was now disabled and had no one else to rely on but him. It's not like I have a choice, he said. I nodded indifferently and pulled my insurance card from my bag. Let's go, you're coming with me. He stared at me wide-eyed like he didn't recognize me anymore. Just 30 minutes earlier I was like a shrew, screaming and crying, refusing to back down. But I couldn't be bothered to explain. I simply turned and walked out. On the way to the hospital, Ethan stayed silent, his face emotionless, but through the rearview mirror, I saw him rubbing his palms together over and over again. That was when I knew he was thrilled. It was the kind of joy that comes from long resistance finally giving way to a dream coming true. We've been married 35 years. I know exactly what every small gesture of his means. I laughed at myself bitterly and drove the car into the hospital parking lot. After getting out, I headed straight for the emergency department. Ethan grabbed my arm, flustered, and said, "You're going the wrong way. Sophie is in the inpatient ward." I gave a sarcastic laugh and shook him off. Go get her yourself. I'm about to die. I want to get checked out and see what's wrong with me. I'm not that generous. I'm not going to personally go fetch his precious Sophie and bring her home. The only reason I even came to the hospital was to get a full physical checkup. Ethan looked me up and down and snapped. You only fainted because you were emotionally overwhelmed. You were out for 2 minutes, then you woke up. You're not sick. He sounded angry. I thought you were finally accepting Sophie, but it turns out you're cursing yourself just to make me feel guilty. I shook my head. You're overthinking it. Don't worry, I'm not going to stand in your way. In my previous life, I fought against it with everything I had, and I didn't change anything, but now that I've already died once, it's time to suppress my emotional brain and make the most rational decision in this life. I've decided to step aside and let them be. I spent the entire day at the hospital going through all sorts of scans. In the end, the doctor concluded that aside from slightly high blood pressure, there was nothing seriously wrong. You're getting older, he said. You need to get more rest. I exhaled deeply. What I feared most was that there might be some hidden illness, something chronic or cancerous that could trigger a bigger problem. By the time I left the hospital and got home, it was already pitch dark outside. The moment I opened the door, I was greeted with laughter and cheer from inside, but as soon as they saw me, the laughter stopped cold. My daughter, Emily, stood up from the couch, clearly displeased. Mom, where were you? You knew Aunt Sophie was moving in today. Why didn't you get her room ready? I took a deep breath and forced myself to hold back. I almost slapped her right then and there. This was the daughter I carried for 10 months, the one I gave everything for. And now she was siding with another woman to push me out. All the pain I went through was all for nothing. I didn't say a word. Sophie gave me a strange, bitter smile as she pushed herself over in her wheelchair. Julie, she said softly, I've caused you enough trouble. I'll leave right away. Ethan's face changed in an instant. He pointed at me and began yelling. Sophie has no way out. Can't you show some compassion? Forcing her to leave? Is that what you want? You want her to go and die. My face darkened. On our wedding anniversary, Ethan and I had planned to go out for dinner, but he bailed on me because Sophie had just returned from abroad and asked to see him. On her way to meet him, she was in a terrible car accident. They ended up amputating her leg. Ethan was consumed by guilt. He believed the accident was his fault. They had switched seats in the car before it happened, and that little twist of fate saved his life instead of hers. After that, Ethan began trying to persuade me. He wanted to bring Sophie home so I could take care of her. But why? She wasn't my savior. Why should I be her servant? I refused. Ethan gave me the cold shoulder. Today we fought about it again so fiercely that I fainted from the stress. When I came to, I realized I had been reborn. Not only do I know I'll die in 7 days, I remember everything that happened right before I was buried. Fine, I'll leave. Is that what you want? I've lived most of my life, and now I'm being pushed out to make room for someone else. What a joke. I walked into the bedroom. As expected, my clothes were scattered all over the floor. I quickly stuffed everything into my suitcase. When I stood up, I saw fresh jasmine flowers on the nightstand and brand new bed sheets on the bed. My chest tightened. It felt like a cat was clawing at my heart. Ethan always said he wasn't the romantic type, that he didn't have a flair for sweet gestures. He remembered that Sophie loved Jasmine. Some people don't lack ability. They just lack the heart. What are you throwing a tantrum about now? He snapped. If you leave, who's going to take care of Sophie? Ethan grabbed my arm, trying to stop me. Mom, Dad, and I both have to work, Emily chimed in. You're at home with nothing to do. All we're asking is for you to cook a little and chat with Aunt Sophie. It's not hard. She looked at me like I was a spoiled child being unreasonable. In my last life, I gave in. I took care of Sophie and died a pitiful death for it. This time, I just want to live a quiet, easy life. If you love her so much, then take care of her yourselves, I said coldly. I pulled the divorce papers from my bag and tossed them in Ethan's face. Sign this. You can take care of her in bed for all I care. No one's stopping your true love. Ethan's face went dark. He gritted his teeth and bent down to pick up the papers. When he saw what they were, his expression shifted to shock. Are you crazy? I'm not crazy, I said. I just want to live. I dropped dead in my last life because they ran me into the ground. Sophie might be old, but she's manipulative, always acting sweet and innocent, constantly playing the victim, telling anyone who'd listen that I mistreated her, didn't feed her. Ethan called me ungrateful. He said, if Sophie hadn't saved me, I might have become a widow. He asked if I had any conscience at all. No, I don't. My conscience got eaten by a dog, so let's make this divorce quick and clean. Getting married is easy. Getting divorced is harder than climbing a mountain. Negotiations failed, but I didn't get discouraged. I moved into a hotel. I'm done serving others. I'm going to survive, even if it means living like a fugitive. I slept until noon the next day. When I finally woke up, the front desk called. Someone was looking for me. As expected, the two women had shown up together. Ethan had been a key technical expert at the factory, and even after retirement, they'd hired him back, saying he was still needed to shine for society. Emily had her own job, so busy every day she barely had time to breathe. Whenever I asked them to accompany me to the hospital, the answer was always, no time. They'd say things like, you're getting older, sure, but you should keep up with the times. Learn from the younger generation. You should try learning things instead of always relying on others. And yet here they were, both skipping work on the same day, a miracle. Emily stormed into the hotel room and glared at me. Mom, at your age, you're really pulling a runaway act. Aren't you afraid people will laugh at you? Let them laugh. Who cares? I said flatly. I've spent a lifetime worrying about what people think. It's about time I broke free from all that and started living life on my own terms. I yawned and sank lazily onto the couch, feeling a bit hungry. Right then, room service arrived with my meal. The server set the dishes down on the table. Emily's eyes widened in disbelief. Mom, you really ordered all this? You're okay with eating like this? I didn't respond. I just picked up my chopsticks and started eating. I'd ordered everything I used to crave but never let myself spend money on, like Australian lobster. Back then, whenever Ethan or Emily wanted something, even if it was expensive, they'd grit their teeth and buy it. But when it came to me, I always told myself not to be greedy, not to want too much. I got used to sacrificing and they got used to me doing it. Looking back now, I realize how little I valued myself. But today, indulging in what I loved lifted my happiness level by tenfold. From now on, I won't be saving for later. If it's worth spending on, I'll spend. No point dying with money left in the bank and regret rotting in your gut. It's just taking care of Sophie. Ethan chimed in. It's not that big of a deal. You're not getting any younger. There's no need to make a scene. Ethan's tone made it clear he thought I was blowing things out of proportion. I sneered. Then either divorce me or send Sophie away. Pick one. What, you think you can guilt-trip me into playing housemaid for your sweetheart? Dream on. To everyone else, Ethan looked like the perfect husband and father. Didn't drink, didn't smoke, didn't hit me. Our neighbors called him a saint. What they didn't see was that he never lifted a finger at home. He walked around like a king. Every time I asked him to do something, it was like pulling teeth. I had to ask again and again, coax him with kind words, and even when he finally did something, he'd do it half-heartedly, mopping the floor with one hand, never wiping down the wet counter after washing dishes, always just shy of finishing the job properly. When I finally lost my temper and yelled at him, people outside said I had a bad attitude. He got all the praise, I got all the blame. I spent my whole life working like a mule. I thought that if I just endured, things would be okay. I treated him like a co-parent, like a partner, but what did I get in return? A slap in the face. Well, I've had enough. If I can't endure it anymore, then I won't. I'm done. We're done. Don't go too far. Ethan's voice exploded, ringing in my ears. I frowned. Emily's grown up. She doesn't need me to look after her anymore. And we don't have that many years left to live. Why can't we spend the rest of them the way we want? As a child, I lived the way my parents told me to. As an adult, I was swept along into marriage and motherhood. Even when the relationship turned cold, I pretended nothing was wrong, faking harmony just to keep up appearances. Social expectations and judgment are like invisible knives, locking so many people in cages. They live step by step, shackled by habit, afraid to break the mold. But this time, with a second chance at life, I want to break those chains. I want to live as myself. Mom, if you guys get divorced, Emily choked. What am I supposed to tell people? People will laugh at you to death. I shot back instantly. And how much is your precious reputation even worth? Don't take yourself so seriously. Seriously, why should we live our lives based on what other people think and end up wronging ourselves? It took me far too long to understand that truth, but thankfully it's not too late to fix things. After filling my stomach, I poured myself a cup of tea and sat down across from Ethan. He stayed silent, not saying a word, so I had to do the talking. I began trying to reason with him, speaking gently. After we get divorced, you'll be free to do whatever you want. You could even be with Sophie if that's what you want. Ethan sat up a little straighter, pressing his thumb tightly against his forefinger. I could tell he was starting to shift. I kept going. Didn't you always say you wanted to climb Mount Tai? Sophie wouldn't stop you. Go for it. Your joints ache and you're still trying to act like you're 20. If you want to wear yourself out, that's on you. Just don't expect me to get involved. No more good intentions being tossed aside like garbage. I reached into my bag, pulled out the divorce agreement, and placed it on the table. Go ahead and sign it. I've got more copies in my bag. I printed 20. I'm ready to get my freedom back anytime. You can have the house, I'll take the cash. It's a fair split. No one's getting the short end. Ethan stared at me, stunned, like it had finally sunk in that I wasn't bluffing. I wasn't making a scene, I truly meant it. I wanted a divorce, and for the first time he actually looked uncertain. Dad, Aunt Sophie's here, Emily said just then. The door swung open, and I looked up at the two people standing at the entrance. My heart churned with complicated emotions. Earlier, I thought Emily had left because of a phone call. Turns out she went to pick someone up. The reason she was so close to Sophie was that Ethan had been secretly taking her to visit Sophie every year behind my back. Over time, Sophie had won her over little by little until Emily opened up her heart and treated her like a second mother. 35 years of raising her, and in the end all I got was blame. To say I wasn't heartbroken would be a lie, especially when everyone knew exactly who Sophie was. I'm sorry, Julie, Sophie said, staring guilty at the divorce papers on the table. It's all my fault that your family's fallen apart. I never meant to come between you and Ethan. Just send me back to the US. What? So she could go back and become a homeless widow with a lost son and daughter-in-law? A perfect move, retreat to advance. Dad, you promised to take care of Aunt Sophie, Emily snapped. Then she turned to me, her voice rising. Mom, Aunt Sophie is such a good person. Why can't you accept her? You're cruel. I was shaking from head to toe, trembling with fury. I slapped her hard across the face. If you care about her so much, then you take care of her. Feed her, bathe her, treat her like your real mother. The memories of my past life cut through me like shards of bone. Back then, when I was taking care of Sophie, she kept deliberately breaking things, dropping cups on the floor, cutting her hands, burning holes in the bed sheets, all of it intentional. And yet she had the nerve to accuse me of harboring resentment and purposefully abusing her, claiming I damaged things out of spite. Ethan and Emily were blind and naive. They believed everything she said. My body was exhausted, my spirit nearly suffocated. You want a divorce? Fine, Ethan said, looking at me like I'd lost my mind. But what, you're kicking your own daughter out of your life too? I stared at him coldly. I'm done with both of you. Their faces twisted in unison. They completely lost control of their expressions. In the end, Ethan signed the papers as I walked out the door with all my luggage. The air felt crisp like freedom itself. Emily grabbed my hand, panic flashing across her face. Mom, can you leave me some money? I didn't even flinch. You're an adult now, time to stand on your own 2 feet. If you want money, go ask your dad. She didn't just choose to stay with Ethan. She also declared that she would take care of Sophie in her old age, treating her like her own mother. My heart, after all, isn't made of iron, it still hurts. If I'm not welcome, then why should I give them money? I'm not some kind of masochist. I spent the next 7 days peacefully in a 5-star hotel. Only then did I finally exhale in relief. As expected, staying away from toxic people really is the best way to preserve your life. In the days that followed, I started apartment hunting. After the Lantern Festival, I found a 2-bedroom, 1 living room place near a school, perfect for the school district. I moved in with just a suitcase. On the first day of the new semester, I returned to campus to teach. I'm a college professor. I'd only recently retired. The university had invited me to come back, rehiring me as a part-time faculty member. Back then I said no. Now I accepted not because I needed the job but to pass the time. Sitting alone at home doing nothing makes your brain rust. Scrolling on your phone all day just leads to deeper emptiness. When you can't find a sense of purpose, time becomes like a harvester. It cuts through your energy and spirit without mercy. After class, on my way home, I ran into someone I hadn't seen in years. Anna caught sight of me and practically leapt toward me, shouting my name with a hoarse, excited voice. She had been a student I sponsored years ago. It all started when she posted on a forum saying both her parents had died and her older brother and sister-in-law, too poor to support her, had forced her to leave school and work. But she had excellent grades and desperately wanted to keep studying. I looked into her situation and found it to be true, so starting from middle school, I supported her financially all the way through high school. Aunt Julie, wait a sec, I need to grab something, she said, and then she was gone like the wind. When she came back, she was drenched in sweat and had a nylon bag slung over her shoulder, face flushed bright red. These are some local specialties from my hometown. I was going to bring them to your house, she said shyly, holding the bag out to me. I took it and peeked inside. You know I love your family's smoked pork and dried veggies, I said with a big smile. Her eyes lit up instantly, like the brightest star hanging in the Milky Way, radiant and dazzling. She offered to help me carry the bag home, but I declined. She looked a little disappointed but quickly perked up again. Aunt Julie, I'll get going then. See you tomorrow, she said, running off with a little bounce in her step, waving at me as she turned the corner. She looked like a cheerful little bunny hopping along without a care in the world. I shook my head, smiling, and carried the heavy bag back home myself. As I stepped out of the elevator, I saw Emily pacing back and forth in front of my door, visibly impatient. Once inside, her eyes immediately landed on the nylon bag in the corner. She scoffed and sneered. Kids these days don't know how to give real gifts. Can't even bring something valuable. I didn't bother arguing. I quietly sorted through the smoked pork and dried vegetables. Emily didn't move. She just sat on the sofa looking completely worn out. Dad's sick, she said. There's no one to take care of him. It's the weekend. Mom, can you go back and help out for a couple of days? She didn't ask. It wasn't a request. She said it like an order, like my opinion didn't matter. I let out a bitter laugh. I couldn't understand how she could say that so casually. This morning she called saying she missed me, but it turns out she just wanted a free live-in maid. Emily stood up. Mom, I'm not just taking care of Dad. I'm also cooking and cleaning for Aunt Sophie. I'm really tired. Can't you feel a little sorry for me?
He stared at her coldly.
When I was the one taking care of both of them, whoever felt sorry for me? 11 housekeepers make thousands a month. I devoted decades of my life to this family. Whoever remembered what I did? I heard Ethan had quit his job to stay home and take care of Sophie full-time. When I asked why they didn't just hire a caregiver, Emily rolled her eyes and said, "What's the point of paying someone? It's not like they truly care." Funny, no one ever cared like that for me when I was sick. I lay in bed alone. No one looked after me. Those two acted like I was some kind of superhero, as if I could heal myself through sheer willpower. From now on, anything related to Sophie has nothing to do with me. I don't want to be asked. I don't want to be involved. We have no connection, period. Before she left, Emily threw out a parting jab. When you're old and sick, don't come begging me for help. I didn't say a word. I'd already stopped counting on that daughter a long time ago. I didn't make any grand announcement about the divorce, but people started noticing I was always by myself. Some coworkers got curious and I casually mentioned it. The news spread quickly through campus. Reactions were mixed. Some said, "Getting divorced at your age? What will you do with the rest of your life?" Others add, I mustered my courage and said I'd done the right thing. Whether people judged me or gossiped behind my back, I didn't care. You never know which will come first, tomorrow or the unexpected. Better to live in the present and worry about the rest later. Despite the whispers, Anna still showed up around me often. After hearing I was divorced, she started stopping by more, helping me clean the apartment and chatting with me to keep me company. Everyone said she was sucking up, trying to gain something from me. I just laughed it off. I'd sponsored Anna for 6 years. When she took the college entrance exam, she chose my university without hesitation. I'll never forget the first time we met in person. Tears welled in her eyes as she said, "Professor Julie, I can't repay you right now. I just want to stay close to you." She's a strong and proud young woman. When she entered college, she refused any more help from me, and instead applied for student loans to cover her tuition. She was always busy with no real free time. She tutored outside campus to earn her living. Now she's working as a freelance photographer. I heard her photos have gained a lot of attention online, and she's even built a small fan base, basically a minor internet celebrity. I admire her deeply. Coming from a rural background and making it all the way to a top-tier city for college took more than just persistence. It took grit and a spirit that never backed down. Time flew and soon it was graduation season. I had been wondering how I'd spend the long summer when Anna invited me to travel with her. I frowned immediately, and she seemed to anticipate that. Grinning, she leaned close and said, "Julie, I've got money now. Remember when I was a kid and promised I'd take you traveling someday?" Back then, she used to call me on her sister-in-law's old busted phone, making promises all the time. I never took them seriously, but apparently she did. She remembered every word. We decided our first stop would be Yunnan. The night before we were set to leave, Emily suddenly showed up at my door looking awkward. She said, "Mom Mouse wants to get married. What should I do?" "Make your own decision," I told her. "Just don't regret it." After her divorce, despite my objections, Emily had started seeing her ex-boyfriend again. Mouse was a lowlife with no stable job, barely scraping by, just another drifter. But Emily was blinded by love. Say a few sweet words to her, and she'd hand over her whole heart. Back then, I had stepped in and arranged a marriage for her with someone decent, a man from a respectable family. She had a grand wedding and left in style, but she could never forget her first love. In the end, she ruined her own marriage. Now I didn't want to interfere anymore. Let her be. Emily stood there stunned, like she couldn't process what I just said. She stared at me blankly and asked, "Mom, you used to talk me through things. Why aren't you saying anything now?" I took a sip of water and said nothing. Instead, I waved my hand. If there's nothing else, you can go. The same conversation we'd repeated over the years. What more was there to say? Even if it didn't bother her, I was sick of hearing it. Emily's face darkened, a bitter smile twisting her lips. Aunt Sophie was right. You just don't want me to be happy. You can't stand the idea of me marrying someone I actually like. Fine, then I'm marrying him, she snapped. My chest tightened, I could hardly breathe. Go, I said, clutching at my ribs. After you leave, don't come back. I'll act like I never gave birth to you. If she wanted to be heartless, so could I. No more guilt, no more strings. Without me, who do you think you'll rely on when you're old? I'm your only family, she said, looking smug like she had the upper hand. That look, so superior, so cold, made my chest ache even more. Get out, I said through gritted teeth. After she left, my heart was still pounding uncontrollably. I felt horrible. My hands shook as I dialed 911, then called Anna. I was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. Thankfully, it wasn't life-threatening. Anna was crying so hard at my bedside she could barely breathe. Aunt Julie, please let me move in with you. I really can't stop worrying about you. Her words made my heart ache but also warmed it. This whole ordeal had taught me a valuable lesson. People always say raising kids is a safeguard for old age. But if your children don't have a shred of gratitude, then they're not here to repay kindness, they're here for revenge. After half a month of recovery, Anna and I finally took our trip to Yunnan. She took photos of me. We tried all kinds of local foods, immersed ourselves in the culture, and met all sorts of passionate travelers. Every day was full of new experiences. One afternoon when she saw me laughing, she hugged her camera, ran over and said excitedly, Aunt Julie, let's head to the next city. Look, we've gained even more followers. People are saying I should post more pictures of you. They love seeing you. I scrolled through the comments, emotions bubbling up inside me after Anna shared our story online. How we met, how I supported her. People started calling me Aunt Julie the Great. They said I had lifted her up and helped her onto a bigger stage, given her a new life. They filled the comments with thanks for my kindness. But if I had truly pulled her from the mud, then the one who deserved the most gratitude was still her. If I hadn't seen the wall of award certificates in her tiny village home, if I hadn't seen the burning determination in her eyes, I might never have helped her. No one gives away money for nothing. Every act of generosity is still a kind of investment. Although I never expected anything from her in return, my intention had always been to contribute, to help empower one more woman in this world. Our next stop should be Wuhan, I said. I've wanted to go for years, but I never had anyone to go with. Anna grinned and nodded enthusiastically. I paused, then asked, Are you sure I don't need to pay for anything? Honestly, I was a bit embarrassed I hadn't spent a single cent so far. She laughed. Ever since I posted our story and photos, we blew up online. Businesses are offering us free meals just for the exposure. They're throwing ad money at us, trying to ride the wave. I've got a steady stream of income now, so don't worry. Eat, drink, relax. I've got you covered. She winked and added, And when the money comes in, I'll split it with you. Then she playfully wrapped her arm around mine, beaming with joy. The sunlight lit up her face, and she looked radiant, beautiful in a way that was so different from the shy, timid girl I'd met 10 years ago. I couldn't help smiling and shaking my head. You don't need to share the money with me. I've got a pension, I've got savings. I don't lack anything. Just as I was enjoying my carefree, joyful time on the road, my ex-husband called. He sounded irritated. Your daughter's getting married, he said. You should come back for the wedding. Ethan said. I didn't even hesitate.
No.
Just 2 weeks ago, Emily had called asking for money, completely shameless. Mom, you need to give me at least $300,000 for the wedding, she said. I hung up right then and there. How generous does she expect me to be? I already gave her $400,000 for her first wedding, and now for a second one, she's still trying to squeeze more out of me. Since the divorce, she hadn't asked once how I was doing. All she knew was how to take, never to give. No one owes someone like that endless patience, not even their own mother. Anna and I kept traveling. I never went back to teaching. This is the best era to live in. Every day was filled with joy and discovery. We posted our photos and videos online, added a few ads, and money just rolled in. It wasn't like the old days, working hard day after day, saving penny by penny. The internet boom didn't just support us financially. It introduced me to people from all walks of life, gave me opportunities one never imagined, and opened my eyes to a much wider world. As the new year approached, I finally returned home. The next day, Ethan came to my door. He looked me up and down, his expression complicated. "Ever since you left, you've been doing better. Your life looks so full." I smiled but didn't say anything. After that hospital stay caused by Emily's outburst, I blocked both of them completely. They couldn't contact me unless they borrowed someone else's phone. Ethan had probably seen me online. At this point, I was something of a minor internet celebrity. Plenty of relatives and old friends had heard about it. I leaned against the doorframe and said flatly, "Cut to the chase. Why are you here?" Ethan had changed. His back was hunched like he was carrying a mountain. His clothes hung loosely on his bony frame, and he looked like he'd aged 10 years, nothing like the man he used to be. He clearly hadn't been doing well. "Emily's sick," he said. "Can you go see her?" "I don't want to." Even after half a year, I couldn't forget what it felt like to be that close to death. I couldn't breathe, collapsed on the sofa, and she just looked the other way. Whether she was doing well or not had nothing to do with me anymore. I didn't want to go, but Ethan wouldn't give up. He insisted, refused to leave. I got so annoyed I finally gave in and went to the hospital. As soon as Emily saw me, she burst into tears. She rolled up her sleeves, showing bruises all over her arms. "Mom, Mouse isn't even human. All he has is a pretty face and some charm, but my body's covered in injuries. It's horrifying. He didn't just hit me. He gambled away everything I had, took all my money and disappeared." She started sobbing again, wailing uncontrollably. "Mom, I really regret it. If I just listened to you, I wouldn't have ended up like this, being beaten and pinned to the floor like trash." I listened to her sobs silently. Ethan had told me some of it already. After their wedding, Emily and Mouse had a short honeymoon phase. Sweet, affectionate, everything looking perfect. But it didn't last. One day, debt collectors showed up. Turns out Mouse owed a lot of money. That was when the truth came out. He was addicted to gambling. Emily confronted him. At first, he tried to smooth things over, acting sweet, but eventually he stopped pretending. His true nature came out. If she so much as questioned him, he'd hit her. The violence escalated, and their relationship spiraled deeper into abuse. I let out a cold laugh. A person can fake it for a while, but no one can pretend forever. Once a man feels he's got you locked in, all pretense goes out the window. He doesn't have to act anymore. He stops pretending altogether. Emily's situation could have been avoided. I warned her. I told her the truth, but she didn't listen, and now she's living the consequences. I didn't feel sorry for her. If anything, I wanted to shout, "Serves you right." Once she calmed down, I didn't waste time sugarcoating things. I got straight to the point. "Get a divorce." She stared at me, stunned, hesitating.
"Mom, I'm pregnant."
"Get an abortion," I said. Short-term pain is better than a lifetime of suffering. A child born into a family like this won't be happy. A useless gambling father, a broken home. That's hell mode from day one. Just thinking about it made my scalp tingle. "I want to keep the baby," she whispered. I didn't try to convince her again. I knew she hadn't given up. She still wanted to believe this was salvageable. She wanted to use the child to change a man who had no heart. But most men at their core are selfish. The only thing that holds them back is a sense of morality, and even that only goes so far. Hoping a gambling addict will suddenly see the light, that's just a fantasy. As I turned to leave the hospital room, I ran into Ethan pushing Sophie in her wheelchair. Sophie spotted me, and an unmistakable flicker of displeasure crossed her eyes. Still, she forced a fake smile. Emily is such a headstrong girl. She got married and now comes crying home every day. "Julie, you really ought to talk some sense into her." I ignored her and turned to glare at Ethan. "Your daughter got beat like that, and you still haven't called." Ethan hesitated, mumbling, "She doesn't act like a proper wife. There's always chaos in the house." Sophie chimed in, her tone sickeningly gentle. "We shouldn't air our dirty laundry. Calling the police would just bring shame on the family." I stared at the two of them, speechless. If I hadn't kept a lid on things back then, Their reputations would have been in shambles by now. Sophie took $200,000 from Ethan and used it to keep up her and Mouse's lifestyle. Neither of them worked. They lived off his retirement money until it dried up. Then the fighting started. Grown adults still mooching off their parents. Doesn't matter how much money you have, they'll burn through it. Sophie scoffed, her tone dripping with sarcasm. That money was mine anyway. What, you think I should have given it to someone else? I've earned it. Emily exploded. She jumped off the hospital bed and screamed, "Why can't my dad give me money? You don't do a damn thing all day. All you have to do is lie there, cry a few fake tears, and my dad throws cash at you like you're some kind of saint. Who the hell do you think you are?" I stood there in shock. Just a few months ago, they were inseparable like mother and daughter. Now they were tearing each other apart like mortal enemies. It had only been half a year, but people and circumstances had changed in ways I never imagined. Sophie was so furious she almost passed out. Her eyes welled up with tears as she tilted her head dramatically at a 45-degree angle and cried out, "Ethan." Her voice echoed like a tragic melody, soft and lingering. Emily pointed at her and shouted, "You're too old to be acting like this. That pathetic little cry, why don't you go into acting?" The room went silent. Emily's savage one-liner obliterated the mood. Ethan, flustered, quickly wheeled Sophie away to escape the awkward tension. I stayed behind, I wasn't done. I wanted to hear the rest of this drama. I turned to Emily. "What exactly happened between you and Sophie? You two used to be so close." She let out a long sigh. Turns out, after I refused to give her money, she started pestering Ethan. Ethan planned to sell his 4-bedroom apartment and downsize to a 2-bedroom. The plan was to split the extra cash, half for him, half for her. But Sophie objected. She was adamant, refusing to let it happen. She said, "What kind of daughter keeps bleeding her father dry? With this kind of character, he can forget about relying on her in his old age." Emily muttered bitterly. That finally got through to Emily. She stopped pushing and in the end barely managed to scrape together 200,000 yuan as a dowry. But the bride had no money, and the groom was so poor he practically jingled when he walked. The wedding was a mess, cheap and embarrassing. People gossiped about it for weeks. Every time I went back to visit home, Emily went on, "He would give me that nasty look, and she's been whispering in Dad's ear ever since, turning him against me." Tears began streaming down her cheeks again. People always say, "When there's a stepmother, there's a stepfather too." They were right. I must have been blind to treat her like my real mom. I let out a long sigh. There's always a cause before there's a consequence. She had no one to blame but herself. I didn't say more, just told her to rest and heal. "Get rid of the baby," I added. "If you can't stand on your own, no one else can carry you." The next day I stayed home to rest. I planned to go out and buy some supplies for the new year, but that didn't happen. Emily showed up instead. The moment she stepped through the door, she fell to her knees and started bawling. "Mom, I was wrong, I swear I know now. Please, please save me." Before I could react, I heard footsteps behind her. I looked up and saw him, Mouse, the so-called son-in-law. He swaggered in, grinning like a jackass. "Mom, you're looking younger every day." Emily shrank behind me in terror, trembling. "Mom, he tied me up. He tortured me." Mouse waved his hand, laughing. "Come on, couples fight. What's the big deal, right?" The way he acted like nothing could touch him was infuriating. I really didn't want to get involved in their mess, but this time it had to be dealt with. No one was leaving this house until it was settled. Without another word, I pulled out my phone and dialed the police. That finally shook Mouse. "Come on, we were just messing around, that's all." I ignored him. I'd chosen this apartment partly because the police station was just downstairs. Personal safety was non-negotiable. An officer arrived quickly after hearing what had happened. They took Mouse away and told us to come down later to make a formal statement. I turned to Emily and said, "If you really want out, go to the hospital, get your injuries documented, get a medical report, gather all your evidence, and when the time comes, take him to court." She nearly fainted. "I want a divorce, I've had enough." Her hair was matted to her bruised face, making her look utterly wrecked. "Mom, I'm sorry I was so stupid. I should have never left Chin Shun." She gripped my hand tight, drowning in regret, but I pulled away. I glanced down at her fractured fingers and said nothing. Chin Shun had been the son-in-law I'd personally picked. He was once my student, handsome, well-educated, came from a good family, and knew how to carry himself. When he found out Emily had cheated, he didn't cause a scene. Instead, he knelt in front of me saying, "I'm sorry, Professor. I couldn't give your daughter the happiness she wanted." When they divorced, he was supposed to get a share of the marital assets, but I stopped him. "You were the one betrayed. What face do you have asking for anything?" I'd wanted to find a partner for Emily who was her equal in every way. Similar background, similar education, similar values. That's what makes a marriage stable and lasting. But Emily didn't appreciate it. She chose someone who couldn't meet her halfway, and thought she'd find happiness in a mismatched relationship. What she got instead was disaster, but she earned it. I recommended a top-tier divorce lawyer to her. I didn't get involved in what came after. When everything finally settled down, a month had already passed. Mouse was sentenced to a year in prison for domestic abuse. That experience was enough to wake Emily up completely. She gave up on the idea of remarrying and asked if she could move in with me. I turned her down. I hadn't lost my memory. The pain and betrayal were still etched in my mind. I hadn't forgotten a thing. 2 days before Lunar New Year's Eve, Anna showed up out of nowhere. She brought her older brother, his wife, and their 5-year-old twin boys. The whole family came, arms full of gifts. Anna grinned from ear to ear. "Aunt Julie, this year we'll celebrate New Year's at your place. Next year you come to ours, okay? It'll be so lively with all of us. You're not going to kick us out, right?" All 5 of them put on pitiful puppy dog faces, trying to look extra sincere. My heart melted. 1,000 emotions surged in me. Gratitude, warmth, joy. On a day meant for family reunion, they traveled all this way just for me. For the first time, I truly believed in the goodness of people. On the 29th, we all went out in a big group to do some New Year shopping. When we reached the women's section in a big department store, we noticed a commotion ahead. Curious, we walked closer, only to find it was Ethan, Sophie, and Emily. Sophie was in a pitiful state. Her wheelchair had tipped over and she was lying on the floor. No one was helping her up. Why? Because Ethan and Emily were locked in a heated argument. After eavesdropping for a moment, I realized what was going on. Sophie wanted a 5,000 yuan designer coat. Emily refused to pay for it and yelled at her. "Have you no shame? At your age, you think you deserve something this expensive? You think you're still some delicate flower." Ethan's face flushed deep red, but he said nothing. He stood there silently, letting people stare, letting the scene spiral into a spectacle. Sophie lowered her head, burying her face in her arms, clearly humiliated. I didn't go over to greet them. I just turned to head toward the appliance section to look at clothes. But Emily spotted me and rushed over, grabbing my arm. She was furious. "Mom, you never bought clothes that expensive for yourself. Why should she get to wear it?" I just chuckled. The truth was, Ethan had always been stingy. Even without Emily there to oppose him, he would never have agreed to buy that coat. If he were truly willing, he wouldn't have just stood there frozen, letting his daughter throw a fit, letting Sophie sit humiliated on the ground without lifting a finger. No matter how romantic a man might have been in the beginning, time wears that down. Even your favorite food can grow bland if you eat it every day. And Sophie, she was getting old, needing constant care. No matter how cherished a first love once was, reality always wins in the end.
No exceptions.
I entered the store and tried on a few outfits. I picked several I liked. When I went to pay, Emily shoved her card forward. "Mom, let me get this for you." But the moment she saw the total, she froze, speechless. "Mom, you're really spending this much for myself?" "Of course I am," I said coolly. "Every piece I buy now is over 10 grand, and it's not like I don't have money." Anna paid me back the full 6 years of sponsorship. She even shared a good portion of her profits with me. As I pulled out my phone to pay, the shop owner waved her hand. "That sweet girl already paid for you." Anna leaned in and bumped my shoulder playfully. "I've always wanted Aunt Julie to be my mom. Can you just give me one chance to show it?" Her brother and sister-in-law stood beside her, nodding quickly and chiming in. "We're the ones who are lucky. Truly, we don't deserve her." Suddenly, the 2 twin boys ran up and wrapped their arms around my legs, their little heads tilted up adorably. All our friends have grandmas. We want a grandma too. Tears streamed down my face as I laughed through them. In the corner, I saw Ethan, Sophie, and Emily watching the scene unfold. Their expressions unreadable, complex, almost sorrowful. But in the grand scheme of life, everything else is just noise. Emily finally whispered weakly, "Mom." But I ignored her. Instead, I turned to Anna, took her hand in mine, my gaze gentle. "What do you want, sweetheart?" "Mom, you're buying this for me? Wow, I'm so happy. I finally have a mom who loves me." Their excited voices practically pierced the clouds, ringing out with joy. They surrounded me, arms linked, leading me into another store. Everyone insisted on paying for my things, each one trying to outdo the other. As I took off my old clothes, it felt like I was shedding the burdens of the past, letting go of years of pain and resentment. With each elegant piece I tried on, it felt like I was dressing for a new chapter in this lifetime. I had restarted everything, and happiness, true warm blooming happiness, was finally taking root deep in my heart. My journey into the future was only just beginning.